Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Angie. So Natalie and Julie. Uh, we're here for Conscious Conversations in Parenting. And if you were with us last episode, we were talking about grudges and judgments. And now we're talking about lessons in compassion today, which is the antidote to what we were talking about in the last episode. So just a quick introduction. If you're new here, hi, welcome. Thank you for being here. Anybody who is here again, thank you for joining us in these conversations. I'm Angie. I'm a human navigating life. I navigated as a mom. I have a 10-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm a wife. I have a husband, and we just moved across the country. And oh, we have a hamster. These guys talk about their cats. So we have a hamster that we absolutely adore. And I'm just really passionate. I created this space to have conscious conversations publicly so that we could start sharing, because we would already have these conversations, right? Me, Natalie, Julie, like we're already having these conversations. And when people would listen in on them, they would get like, oh, that's interesting. They would learn new things and they would ask questions. And so it's like, why don't we just share this with people? Because this is how we grow. This is how we learn what's possible. This is how we learn new perspectives, Julie was saying in the last one, new perspectives. That's how we gain them. And then we can choose when we have more perspectives and we have more possibilities available to us because we're seeing them, because we're open to it, we become more empowered because now it feels like we have choice. Often it feels like we actually always have choice, but doesn't always feel like it, does it? So I think I love having these conversations. And compassion is one of my favorite topics. That's something I really love diving into. So I love that that's been brought up. So Natalie, I'll let you introduce yourself and Julie.
Thank you, Angie. I am, navigating this life in this human body. And again, I love having conscious conversations because it brings up a lot of stuff that may not even be in my awareness, right? Often when we're on these conversations, it's very intuitive, the messages that come through. And that's why I also love watching on the live replays as well. Um, yeah, and I'm part of a family here, and compassion has been like the big bright lesson the past week or so. And I just wanted to share the experiences and the wisdom that came through. So looking forward to today's conversation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Me too. Hello, everyone. I'm Julie, and I am an energetic being in this human body. And I am always learning new ways to direct my energy and expand my energy and bring more love, light, and healing into my energetic field and into my body. I am a mother and a wife. I have a husband and 2 boys who are 13 and 11. And I have 4 cats who are, like 19 and 17 and 16. And yeah, I am just someone who tries to intentionally live with love, sharing love, and being love. And I love these conversations so very much because it gives so much insight and new perspectives and new ways of being, new ways to try to live our lives in a more peaceful, loving state. So thank you for creating this space, Angie. Looking forward to compassion.
You're welcome. Thank you. Natalie, I'll let you take it away because this is very present in your life right now.
Yes. So it was interesting how this came up. So I was actually talking to my mentor about I was trying to bring up like compassionate feelings towards people, like in a specific family situation.
Mm.
And it felt so cringy, like very tight in my chest. So I was having a conversation with her about it. And she made me realize in the moment and also after the fact that what I was actually feeling is compassion. I just didn't have the word for it because we weren't taught that as kids. And it did feel uncomfortable, but it felt uncomfortable not because it was pity, which was what I, or the ego, was labeling it. It's actually compassion, but it felt so uncomfortable because I didn't know what it was. I had, the ego hasn't had an idea or a concept of how compassion should feel in the body. Um, and I mean, the ego is just full of BS, guys. So don't believe it for the most part, And so ever since I've had this realization, and Julie talks about this a lot, of when you shift your perception, right? Like I had a shift in perception, but it happened inside. And then when you have those powerful shifts inside, your point of view really does change, where you're in the exact same situation, but then you see it from, like, as if you're a totally new person. So as I was practicing this and recognizing that it's actually compassion that I feel. So let's say I overhear a conversation between two people, or an interaction between people, and I kind of tense up, I will like put my hand wherever I feel it, and I'm like, compassion, and I just repeat it to myself, and it just, like, it melts everything away. And I realize, I'm like, whoa, like all this time I was feeling compassion, I just didn't have that knowledge, that wisdom, those words, or that positive perception to see it that way.
It is
Yeah.
incredible how our perception can change everything, absolutely everything, in almost an instant.
Yeah, it is instant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
love
reminds
that.
me of, I mean, we're going to be talking about resentment soon in another episode, but this is that instant turn, that instant shift reminds me of this video that I had shared, and it was talking about resentment and, not being actually part of the anger family, and that's what we would think it is. But it's actually a function of envy. And when she shared that in the video, and she shared this different perspective of it, right? Of what the mirror is, what this feeling is coming up, because it's not that I'm mad at you for doing or not doing what I think, what you're doing, but I'm mad at myself for not doing or not doing,
Yeah.
So, and I was having a hard time, like this video came with perfect timing for me. I was having a hard time understanding what the mirror was, what the reflection was. I really didn't understand what it was telling me about me, what the invitation was, right? And as soon as I heard this, it literally shifted all of a sudden. Like now my focus was no longer on who I was thinking I was resentful towards. The shift went right in, and I just jumped into the lesson of it. Yeah. So it's that fast. It's so cool.
Like these feelings and these emotions, and especially the challenging ones, come up as blessings for us to be able to shift into a life that is more peaceful and pleasant for ourselves, a life that is led through our heart and through our soul. And it takes new perspectives often, like we have to sit and feel these feelings and then go within and find a new perception, a new perspective, and it can shift instantly. It's absolutely amazing. What this is bringing up for me is a recent shift in perception that I've had, and it's with one of my abusers from when I was a teenager. And I, held on to that and tried to shift that feeling for so long, because as I mentioned in the last video, it was the, drinking the poison and hoping the other person would die, having all these feelings come up in me and feeling powerless about it, and feeling like my power was still being taken from me, because in those moments I was feeling so horrible and I wanted to stop feeling that. And I really had to shift to compassion for that human being. And it was almost instant that I played through it in my head in a completely different perspective and scenario of who this human being is. I had one perception of him, and now it shifted, and it was so extremely powerful. And I found it very interesting because we often talk about, our emotions, our energy and motion. And when we suppress them and distract from them and avoid them, they become stuck within our body and oftentimes lead to physical health problems and challenges, right? So I have kidney stones, had kidney stones. And just as this new perception came up and I shifted it, I suddenly needed surgery for the kidney stones. And kidney stones is holding on to anger from the past. If you look in Louise Hay's book. So this was anger that was within me. And it was amazing how, with my perception instantly changing, then suddenly the physical changes happen. And the release of the kidney stones, like, it's just absolutely mind-blowing how powerful we are. And it all starts in our mind and how we perceive things and how we choose to perceive things. So
and when we have compassion for ourselves, because when we have those awarenesses, it's very easy to judge ourselves awarenesses as they come up, right? Or these new perspective shifts, right? And so this is why I think it's so important to cultivate compassion. Because when you cultivate loving kindness and compassion, then as you go through this journey of awakening, you have so much more love and compassion for yourself. And then
right, and
have it for others.
And I want to share that this person, I had to practice this many times with other people before I was able to come to this place of, and it took me years and years and years. How many years has it been? I don't even know. To get to this point, but I practiced it with, smaller things and things that had happened further. But this one took me longer and longer up until recently. And it shifted to compassion. And then after that, I know I shared with you, Angie, I received new information about this person that could have switched my perception right back. But it didn't. I couldn't feel that anger towards this person any longer. Like, I don't have that in me anymore. I've cleared it out. And, all I wish for anyone who harms anybody is that they find their own self-love, infinite and unconditional self-love. Because when we find this within ourselves, we have no desire, and we pretty well can't hurt another being, when we are in this space of self-love. So that is my prayer for everybody in the whole universe.
Yeah. And I think one of you brought up compassion towards yourself. And this has also been something that has come up a lot in my experience in this past week, is practicing more and more compassion towards myself. Of, I even just being compassionate towards myself for feeling compassion. Because again, especially at the beginning, it felt crunchy, right? It didn't feel, again, it felt uncomfortable because of the ego. So just being compassionate towards yourself, that's what you're feeling right now. That's what you're feeling right now, and be okay with it. I guess that's what compassion really is just being okay with it, but being okay with it from a place of love, right? And a point of view of everyone is where they're at. And it really has nothing to do with you, right? You could be the most enlightened, like embodying the Christ consciousness person ever. And maybe your spouse or your kids or someone are just, are living a different experience than you. And that's okay, because maybe that's why you came together, right? Maybe that's why before you dropped in your bodies, you're like, hey, like, I wonder, like, how this experience would feel like, right? You want to do it together? Yeah, sure. Let's fucking do this, right? Let's get like really intense. And maybe and as we keep uncovering these truths, it kind of clicks, like the life lessons that we intended before we dropped in. So with this conversation of compassion, maybe our life intention was to discover compassion in different ways, right? In different scenarios. So often we want others to show compassion towards us. Like, we want to know that other people care. But do you tell yourself that you care for you?
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, that's such
That
a
you
huge
care
key.
for, your body, for your higher self. you know, that you show compassion towards all these elements that make you you.
Yeah. One of the things, I have an invitation for everybody because this is my practice. Like, so well, it's not my practice. I didn't make it up. It's Tibetan Buddhism, but tonglen is exactly that. Tonglen is getting in touch with your suffering, because if you get in touch with your suffering, because we overlook our suffering. We look outside at everybody else's suffering, and that's how judgment gets born, because we're looking outside, right? And we're thinking we're better than that suffering. My suffering isn't as bad as that suffering. And so this is so programmed, right, to not be in touch with our suffering. And so every time I run tonglen practice in my membership, I'm now doing it weekly. So every week we are doing this practice, and what we do is, the first thing I'm going to invite you to do, I'm going to walk us all through it right now. So I want you to think about something you're going through right now. Something that feels crunchy, that's you're suffering in, right? For me, it's this rising of resentment, okay? So I'm going to think about that, and you can give it a label, you can give it a color, even a shape, a texture, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is. And what we do, tonglen is about breathing. It's following the breath. So on your in-breath, you're breathing into the suffering. You're breathing in the suffering, your own suffering, because you're offering yourself relief by breathing it in to the heart. You can imagine breathing it into the heart. And you're breathing it in. So I'm breathing in resentment. And as I breathe it in, I wish for all beings to be free from this experience, because you're included in all beings, right? And you're connecting your suffering with other suffering, because it's all the same. We're all human, and we all have the condition of suffering. It is all the same, and so we think we're separate. We're not. And so you breathe in resentment. So I'm going to do this 3 breaths right now, okay? And then, sorry, what we're going to breathe out, we're going to breathe out compassion. And we're going to breathe out compassion to fill that relief, that space for all beings, including ourselves. Right now, we're looking at our suffering. Okay, so we're going to do 3 breaths of this. So breathing in, resentment, your suffering, and wishing for all beings to be free from this experience. And you're going to breathe out love and compassion. Again, you're going to breathe in your experience of resentment or whatever it is, and wish for all beings to be free of that experience. And then you're going to breathe out love and compassion, so that people will reach for it. You're going to breathe in your suffering. I lost count. I think that's 3. Wish for all beings to be free of it. And you're going to breathe out love and compassion. And whatever it is, I always default to love. If you don't know what it is you want to breathe out, then breathe out love. So you start with yourself. This is what you do. You start with yourself. Now, who is somebody close to you? Bring them to mind. Who's suffering? Somebody close to you that you're watching suffer, right? They're in suffering. Just think about that person. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in that person's suffering, whatever it is. You can give it a color, a texture, whatever, a shape, You're going to breathe that in, and you're going to breathe out to them love. We're just going to breathe out love. So 3 breaths in, breath in, breath out, 3 breaths. So just breathe in, thinking of that person, wanting to offer relief to them and wishing that they would be free of this experience. And you're going to breathe out love and compassion to them. And you're going to breathe in that person's suffering. You're going to breathe out love and compassion to them. And as you think about this person, I'm thinking about somebody who's in low self-worth. Breathing in that worthlessness, feeling and wishing all beings to be free of that experience. And breathing out love and compassion. And then you extend it to a bigger collective. What's a maybe I know like Julie has a love for, nature, and there's a lot of harm being done in nature. And so that might be the suffering you want to breathe in for the collective, right? Or maybe it's animals. There's animal cruelty, there's child trafficking. You can take any big collective suffering. Homelessness is what I was breathing in today, because I've been very aware of it lately. And so we take it out wider and think of a collective suffering. So let's say it's homelessness. So I'm just going to breathe in, what homelessness to me is. It's loneliness, it's isolation, and it's stigma, And so I'm going to breathe in that. I'm going to breathe in isolation, loneliness, and stigma. And I'm going to wish for all beings to be free of that experience. And I'm going to breathe out love and compassion for anyone in that experience. I'm going to breathe in loneliness, isolation, and stigma, and wish for all beings to be free of that experience. And I'm going to breathe out love and compassion from my heart for all of them in that experience. And I'm going to breathe in loneliness, isolation, and stigma, and wish for all beings to be free of that. And I'm going to breathe out love and compassion for all beings in that experience. And how the beautiful thing about this practice, thank you for doing this with me. The beautiful thing about this practice is it starts to awaken compassion in you. So if you're not in touch with compassion, you're just using your breath to do it. And you're setting an intention following your breath. And it starts to open the heart. It starts to awaken the heart. It starts to connect you to the commonality of suffering amongst all humans.
Thank you so much for taking us through that, Angie. That felt absolutely wonderful. And you shared this with me before, and I've done it before, but I'm going to make this a more regular practice because it just felt so wonderful. And I just wanted to share that it was very interesting. I did choose the earth and the animals, all the suffering that goes on there. And it was interesting when I was breathing out the love and compassion, it wasn't for the earth and the animals, it was for all those causing harm to the earth and the animals.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I love this practice so much, and I also am not doing it. And so that's why now I've decided in the membership I'm doing it every week now. It's because I want to practice it.
Right. When it comes to compassion or anything new we're creating in our life, it's, as we've talked about so many times, we need to choose and choose again and again and again.
Yes, and create conditions so that you can do it.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was I just made a video I haven't shared yet today, and I was talking about, adding these little routines of self-love and care. It's helpful if we can add it to the routines that we already do, like going to sleep, waking up, brushing our teeth. I think we've had this conversation in past videos as well. Going to the bathroom. I often ground. You too? Yeah,
I was going to say, do it when you're on the toilet, man.
Yes.
Like, it's not blasphemous or anything. Like, it's just a regular physical function.
Right.
But that's a great, because I mean, how often do you sit on the can every day, right? So even if you do like one of this,
exactly.
Dude, that's huge.
When usually when I'm going to the bathroom, I am re-grounding myself. I am reconnecting with source energy, and sometimes I'll do my chakras as well, and it becomes second nature. And because we are doing these routines daily, we'll be reminded of it. And sometimes we can put a little note there if we want to, like where we wake up, where we go to sleep, brush our teeth, to get us started into the habit. But you can just put tonglen beside your toilet. and every time you go in there, oh yeah.
And the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. And again,
Mhm.
it awakens more compassion. So you become familiar. I missed some of what you were saying in the beginning, Natalie, but I heard you talking about like, you didn't know what it felt like. You didn't know that's what it was, right? Like, so people don't
Right.
know, and that's okay, but just trust that breathing in and breathing out, it's powerful. The intention is there, and it'll awaken. It will awaken.
Mhm.
And maybe
Yeah.
you can't do
Yeah.
it for someone else. Start with yourself. Start small. We always talk about
Yeah.
this, right? Start small. Start with your own
Yeah.
suffering. Start to get in touch with your own suffering. Oh, I'm angry at my children right now. Okay, you know what? I'm going to breathe in that anger. And then I'm going to send myself love and compassion and all be,
Yeah.
because there's lots of moms having the same experience that you're having in
Yeah.
that moment.
And tell yourself that it's okay. It's okay that, this body is feeling this way. And then it
Yeah.
just melts a little bit of that resistance, or it melts a lot of it, right? And compassion is who we truly are. Like when we really grasp this perspective of compassion, it's really taking a huge step back from ego and like sitting yourself back in your seat as the observer. Because with compassion comes space, right? So it's important to, like, again, first of all, take care of yourself, like create these little space moments that, Julie is so fond of teaching us. All this self-care, because that creates a little bit, like a little pocket of space. But the more and more you do just even that one thing, well, you're creating more space, and then you're more comfortable doing more self-care stuff. And then out of that space comes that real you, right? And we are compassion guys.
Yes.
We're not just these human bodies in like a household. We are so much bigger than that. Like we're as big as the damn universe. And there's a part of us that's just observing all of this. So when we can really start tapping into that compassion, we're really, again, stepping outside of ego and really tapping into that bigger part of us that is compassion, is infinite love.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And as we become conscious, we get faced with so many uncomfortable feelings towards ourselves, and we can really start judging ourselves very easily. But that just brings us on a downward spiral. If we can give ourselves compassion in those moments where we realize, oh, I am not behaving or acting in a way that my heart wants me to, or that I'm choosing to, when we can give ourselves compassion in those moments, that's when we can turn it around rather than judging ourselves in those moments. So something that I say often, it's my prayer for everyone, is, to have I pray that you're having a beautiful, loving day. And if you're not, I pray that you're taking non-judgmental care of yourself, loving, non-judgmental care of yourself, because it's the judgments on ourselves that will continue to bring us down. We need to give ourselves compassion for us to be able to switch that around.
It expands. Compassion expands. It opens the heart. Compassion becomes open. And when you're open, those unlimited possibilities that we keep talking about, they become known to you.
Yes.
Yeah. What a beautiful conversation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to share?
I think just what I just shared is, finding that compassion in those moments when we realize we are acting or behaving or thinking in a way that doesn't feel good. Maybe we were unaware of it. That's the whole point of becoming conscious. We're becoming conscious in the moments of, and being the observer, like Natalie said, of our own experience. So then we can be empowered to make choices that align with our heart and our soul. So oftentimes it can be super uncomfortable to start seeing and feeling these experiences that we've been having unconsciously, and now we're conscious of them. So my invitation is to give yourself compassion in those moments. Know that, this awareness is coming to you so that you can lead a more peaceful life and find more inner peace within you. and you did the best that you could with what you had up until this point, and now you know better and you can choose to do better. And it doesn't mean you're going to choose to do better every single time, and have compassion with yourself there too, because we are not perfect. We are just beings who get to choose. We are sovereign beings and we get to choose over and over again. So yeah, have compassion for yourself in those moments.
Thank you. I like what you said, Natalie, as you were talking, Julia, is that, wherever like you're feeling it, like literally put your hand there and just say
Yeah.
compassion. Say the word compassion,
Yeah.
and you don't have to know what you're doing, just do it. Just,
Yeah.
compassion. I love that. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in whenever you're tuning in. If you do like the video, please like the video. That helps us just reach more people, and share the video with anybody that you think could use this, right? Could use some compassion. I think that there's a lot of people that need compassion in this world. And so please share the video and like, subscribe and hit the notification bell to see our live recordings every Tuesday. And one of us will be there to live chat with you. And if you want to learn more about us and where you can find us, just check out in the description box below. So thank you. Have a great day, and until next video.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.